folks, today I'm going to be showing you a game called Murder, She Wrote. This game came out in 1985 and it is for 4 to 6 players. Now, many of you are probably very familiar with the old show Murder, She Wrote starring Miss Angela Lansbury. Anyway, the object of this game is actually there are two objects. There's one person that's going to be the murderer, and the rest of the people are going to be the detectives. If you are the murderer, you are going to be trying to kill 5 witnesses off and then try to escape. If you are the detectives, you are going to be trying to figure out who the murderer is. So that is the object. Now let's get to the game. Okay, folks, as always, I'm going to go ahead and show you the components really quick. First, here you have your game board, and the way the game board works is you're going to have your start location over here, and then there are different locations on the board that are going to have a witness on here. Here is Walter Ludlow, for example. Here is Penelope Rumford, and there are 9 witnesses on the board. Now, the object of the game is the murderer is going to have to try to kill 5 of these witnesses off and then make his escape over here or over there on that corner. And the object of the detectives is to try to figure out who the murderer is before. So anyway, here you have your pawns, and with these pawns comes these little these little colored circles, which are going to be placed in here. Now, obviously, the colored circles are going to be coinciding with the pawns. In the beginning of the game, you're going to pass all of these out, and you have 2 types. You have Jessica over here, and there's 5 of these, and then you have the murderer, which makes the 6th one. These here are your rings, and again, these are going to coincide with the tokens. You're going to be using these rings, and there's 6 different colors, to be placing over here anytime you enter a room. So if you enter this room, and you're the first one in, you're going to basically place a ring here to say last in. If you're the second person, you're going to move that over, and then place your circle here. On these witnesses, there are what are called alive tokens. Now, as the game progresses, these witnesses are most likely going to be getting killed off with these dead tokens. Now, the murderer is obviously going to be the only one that's going to be able to use these. And this here is your accusation wheel. If the detective decides to make an accusation, they're going to be using this wheel to pick the color that the person they think is actually the murderer. So now in the beginning of the game, you're going to go ahead and shuffle these out and pass them face down. So let's just say I go... put one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. And then everybody is going to look at them. Of course, they're not going to reveal it. So let's just say this person is red, and red is the person that is the murderer. So then what everybody is going to do is they're going to place their colored marker on here like so, and then turn the piece face down out of play. So I'll go ahead and do that with everybody really quick here. Okay, now what's going to happen next is a little interesting. The way the rules state, everybody's going to go ahead and leave the room, and then each person one at a time is going to come into the room. Now, if you are Jessica, you are not going to do anything. You're just going to stand there for a few seconds, meander around or whatever, and then come back to the room. If you are the murderer, you're going to come to the board and you're going to kill off one of the characters. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to pick one of these characters, and let's just say I pick Penelope. She has a live token, and then the murderer is going to replace it with a dead token, so there will already be one person that has been killed off. And again, the murderer has to kill off a total of 5 of them before he can try to make his escape. Okay, so now we go ahead and get to the gameplay. The highest roller is going to go ahead and go first, and it doesn't matter if it's the murderer or the detective. They're simply going to go ahead and roll these dice and then move that number of spaces. Now, they're going to have to go ahead and move the full roll, and they're not going to be able to double back on a space. So let's just say white moves, and he goes, starts here, he goes 1, 2, 3. Now, if he lands on a yellow space, his turn is going to be over. Now, if he ends up landing on one of these spaces that says to restaurant or to health spa, he can, if he wishes, to just go to that location, any one of these round spots in that area. Now, he does not have to. He can just stay there and just continue moving. But let's just go ahead and say that white decides to go over here to the restaurant. So what white is going to do is white is going to go ahead and look at this token, and it's going to say alive. So what white is going to have to do, and since white is the detective, he is going to just simply take this box of these face-down tokens and secretly pick out another token, and it's going to have to say alive. And then he will just simply go ahead and place that there. And now he's also going to place his marker over here just to indicate that he was the last person in. Okay, so let's say black decides to go, and it's black's turn, and he rolls an 8. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, he lands on a yellow space, and again, he's not going to do anything. But let's just say black ends up going to the space where it says to the restaurant. He decides to go ahead and go to the restaurant. So now black will go ahead and pick a space here, and he'll do exactly what white did. Since black is a detective, he'll look and he'll see that there's an alive over here. So then black is going to go ahead and pick up another alive token and place it over there. And then he's going to move this ring down 1 and place his ring here to signify that he was the last person in there. And so that's basically how it works. Now on White's next turn, White is not going to be able to just simply pick this token up and look at it since Black was just in there. In order for White to look at this token again, he's going to have to exit the restaurant and then come back in to go ahead and look at it. And in that case, if he were to do that, he would just switch these back just to indicate that he was the last person in there. So now let's go ahead and go to the murderer, which is Red. Let's just say Red actually ends up over here at the golf club. So Red will go ahead and pick up this, and it'll say alive. And now Red will have two choices. Red can either keep the person alive, or he can go ahead and kill him off with a dead token. So let's just say Red decides to go ahead and kill him off with a dead token. So he'll place a dead token over here secretly, and then he will also go ahead and say that he was the last person that was in there. So that is basically how that will work. And again, Red is going to have to go ahead and kill off 5 of these people before he can make his escape. And throughout the game, everybody's going to be entering these different rooms. And let's just go ahead and say Blue decided to go into the restaurant over here. If he was the third person in, he would then go ahead and move all these down and place his ring over there. So that's a lot of how this game works. That's pretty much it. There's just a lot of deduction that you're going to be going through, looking at the rings and then looking at these tokens over here. Now, let's just say that a detective has decided he wants to go ahead and make an accusation. What they are going to have to do is they're going to have to either land on or pass this accused space over here. There's one here, and then he will go ahead and take this wheel. So let's say that after serious deduction, he decides he's going to go ahead and pick green. Now, he's going to do this secretly. So what then we'll go ahead and then do is he will pick this up, who is the murderer, and then he will look. And since he is wrong, that is going to kick the detective out of the game. And so this will go back, and then play will resume. Now, if somebody actually picked the murderer out before the murderer was able to escape, then those detectives would go ahead and win the game, and the murderer would lose. And again, the murderer would, if he was able to actually get out of here after killing off 5 people. And that is basically how the game is played. So, my thoughts on Murder, She Wrote. Well, I will admit that I have not played the game that much because it's for 4 to 6 players, and it's not easy for me to get 4 players together. However, this game is actually pretty good. If you're a fan of deduction games, this is a game that I would recommend you give a shot to. It's a little bit different than some of the other ones out there. Clue is obviously one of them. 212B Baker Street is another one. This one game has a murderer in it, and that kind of changes everything up because you're going to have one person playing the murderer and then everybody else playing the detective. That is basically one of the things that makes this game a little bit different than some others. One of the things to note is if you are the murderer, this isn't going to be very easy for you to try to get away, especially if you're making it obvious. So you kind of have to pick your spots. You may end up going into a room and not killing anybody, and then you're going to probably go in and kill somebody. And obviously, one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to throw everybody off with your game. So there is a little bit of skill that is involved with this game, but it's not so hard to the point where it's going to drive you crazy. But anyway, this is a game I'd recommend giving a shot to. If you find this in a thrift store, this is a game that probably goes for about $30 around or so on eBay if you have a complete copy. Maybe even more if it's in better shape. Ranking wise, I'd probably give it about a 5.5 out of 10 or so, maybe a little bit higher, just because I haven't really played the game that much, and the experience I had with it seemed to work well. Anyway, guys, that's my review. Keep on gaming, everybody.